Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are so excited to have everyone here today for our latest career coach. We're just going to take a couple moments, wait for everyone to come in from the waiting room. It's a very exciting topic we have for career coach. And for those of you where it's your first time actually attending the career coach, these topics tend to be a variety of different things regarding issues that you might be coming up in your career, and then ways to problem solve and hopefully apply them to manage those difficult challenges that you may be going through. So this Career Coach series is a part of our affiliate membership. As you can see, Forté offers 3 different tiers for our membership. So we are, again, just very excited to be hosting this series, Career Coach, specifically expanding your influence by managing up, down, and sideways. So this topic, I think, is very relevant for a lot of people, and we have been hearing from our audience that people are just wanting more tools and skills to be able to do this kind of management. So without further ado, I'm actually going to introduce our feature speaker today, Diane Fennig. She is the senior consultant for Gallagher Executive Search and Leadership Advisors and has over 25 years of career development and management experience. So we are very fortunate and excited to have her here today. And again, she's going to be talking on this topic of managing others, both up, down, sideways, and really whatever direction that you are working with a team. So with that, Diane, feel free to go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, first of all, we have a poll because we always got to start that way. Teresa's going to launch a poll. Tell me what you think is the most important work relationship, and I'll get my slides loaded. All right, let's see what they got. Let's see what that poll looks like. All right, all of the above. I've got good students in here, 71%. I kind of am agreeing that all of these are really important. Not one of them is more important than others, but what I find is people are good at 2 of them instead of 3. So we're exercising today, we're managing up, we're managing across, we're managing below. So we're going to get out our exercise wheel. I want to start by always thinking of how we talk about managers versus leaders. Managers put a fire under you, kind of like stoking a fire, but leaders find the fire within you and make you shine. So let's just always remember managers versus leaders. And I want us all to be better leaders. So, managing up, are you truly following your supervisor, your leader? Some people say, my manager, my boss. Are you following them and following them well? Everyone says, how do I define that? How do I do it? How do you have a conversation with your leader of how do you want me to give you feedback? Because a huge part of this in being a good follower is following their direction, but also having that ability to give them feedback about where things are going well, where things are off track. The other thing, I love this managing the bosses we remember and how we manage up. How do you use each of these 9 things with your leader? How do you thank them for providing you a safe place to grow? How do you say, I really appreciate how you opened that door for me? How you defended me when I needed it because I made a huge mistake and you were there on my side saying, I've got your back. How does your manager recognize you? How does your manager and leader develop you? And how, again, we have to remember, how do we thank them for doing those things for us? And then how do we also commend them when they've led by example and they've done some really hard things? When's the last time you walked into your boss saying, high five on that meeting? It was excellent. It was so well done. You prepared a lot. I could see that. And tell your boss, your work matters. And I see you. Just those are these 9 kind of characteristics about bosses we remember. We can use these strategies to manage up. And how do we go in and say, you know what? We messed up. We didn't do this well. How can we do it better next time? A big way of how we manage up and how we make sure we help our boss know what we see from our seat. Most people are really good at the managing up because they think that's the one that's most important. The one that I think people struggle the most with is your peer team, which is kind of managing across. Many people don't want to manage others, so they really see themselves as much more of an individual contributor. And many times, as an individual contributor, you don't think you have any peers because you're really sitting by on your own island. But almost always, you have peers. And those relationships across business lines are really important. You help each other be more visible. You help each other share. And through that sharing and generosity, you help people get things done. And it's really, how do we grow our business, which is a big part of your peer team. So, just a sidebar story about peers that I hope will help you kind of illuminate how important this is. When you're working with your peers, you got to be able to tell a story if you've got an idea. And so, in one of my former roles, I had 6 departments that we wanted to create a shared services kind of frontline uh, uh, triage for problems. And I wanted each person of these 6 divisions to give their best customer service agent with the best attitude up to this one-stop shop. 5 of them, as I told the story, and they understood that this was going to be first line of defense. The problems in their office were going to look so different. They would have time to really solve the problems in the back office a different way. I had 5 of 6 on board, and I had number 6 going, "You're gonna give I have to give up an FTE for you? What?" And working and getting them to come along and say, "But this is what it's gonna do." 6 months after we designed this, and it was kind of a highlight of across the campus, he came back and he goes, "Man, I didn't want this idea to work, but it's working." And I said, it's working because all of us put our best people forward to take on these new roles. And long before the pandemic, offered them a nice salary boost and some incentive to work from home remotely 1 day a week to get these hard problems solved. They came to us and said, "This is what we need." That's where the strength of peers is. You've got as the person who has the idea moving forward, you've got to be able to tell a great story, but at the same time, you've got to help the team tell you why it will or will not work. And with that information, move it forward and constantly check and recheck. Your peers are powerful for you to do good work. Peers, rule 1, be happy, be awesome, and help others with 1 and 2. You got to help the culture and your peers. The way you work with your peers, your teams watch that, your manager watches that, the teams that report through you, they watch it. You've got to respect your peers because it's a relationship everyone looks after. And can we not keep Winnie the Pooh in here? Strong people don't push others down, they lift them up. And you got to lift up your peers because they need that. And they will be great assets to you in your career as peers. Then your team. So we managed up, we manage across. Now it's your team. It's not enough to just say, "Working with you is awesome," and give you a card once a year. That's not enough for your team. And throwing a crazy party like this at the office is not what anybody wants anymore. So, how do you figure out what your team needs from you as the leader? I'm going to spend a lot more time on this one because this is one that just tends to be where people have to figure out ways to do this well. How do you show your team that you're a leader who's willing to grow and learn versus "I know better than anyone else"? And your team has to understand and hear and really feel that you are open to other suggestions, other ideas. Because if they aren't going to be part of the team if they don't feel like they're part of your solution. Back to, how are you memorable? Bosses we remember, You've got to do this for your team. You've got to forgive them when they make a mistake. You've got to defend them when they do something that you say, I wish you wouldn't, I wish you didn't, but you say it was in the best interest and because of. You've got to help people understand that you've got their back. And when you see them, when you catch them doing good work, how do you make sure you let them know? And when you see them leading by example, when you see them offering great customer service, how do you acknowledge that? All of this a super important thing to do as a boss. And right now, it's also how do I hear you, see you, and try to understand what it is you need moving forward. I love these 10 phrases best leaders, great leaders are always saying, thank you, number one. I don't know. What a beautiful thing to say, I don't know that answer. Let's uncover this together. Don't worry. How can I help? Great work. I made a mistake. What do you think? You did a great job. That's not enough, though. You did a great job. Tell me what someone did really well. To come to staffer and say, you did great work, give them more specifics. That presentation was on point. You had the audience in stitches. You used your humor appropriately, and it was memorable, and it was very appropriate. Help people know what was great about the work they do. How can we collectively improve? We're lucky to have you. What do I need to do to keep you? Important thing here is stay interviews. How do I make sure that I'm talking to my staff about, I'm so happy you're here, but also I want to keep you. I want you to stay. What is important to do that? I love this. When I was getting ready for this slide presentation, I'm like, I've got to include this. Control yourself, alter your thinking, delete negativity. We know control, alt, delete. We think it erases everything. But we need to make sure that we think about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And if we're real emotional, we've got to step back and say, okay, take a deep breath before you answer that. How do I alter my thinking? How do I kind of take a problem and flip it upside down and all around? And when the first thing out of your mouth is no, how do we say, how can I make this a yes? All of this work is not roses. Everyone thinks it's so easy. And I always talk about uncomfortable conversations. And I feel like it needs to be a part of when you're truly a good leader. If you don't have the tough conversations, the results will be disastrous to the rest of the team. Uncomfortable conversations with one of the teammates who's not pulling their weight, who's not doing their work. If that's not had properly, the rest of the team will say, why bother? It doesn't matter. So you've got to do the hard work to hold everyone accountable to a standard that you've agreed to. So something that I had a lot of fun with a couple of years ago was I ran into Abby Fallick's 6-question operator's manual, and she read it somewhere else. And she said, wouldn't it be great if we kind of always gave our operator's manual to people that we worked with, our boss, our peers, our team? And I thought, well, wait a second. Why don't we just incorporate this in our work and in our staff developments? And when we have a new staff member joining, how about if we talk about this? And right now, I'm hearing many people say, it's time for really a reset within our group. Let's reset and let's talk about these 6 things. You can add more, but this is a great place to start. What's your style? What do you value? And right now, I'm finding more and more people are saying, my values have changed post 2020. Don't count on my values from before. They're still important, but I value this more now. And flexibility is a big one that people are valuing. What I don't have patience for, chances are that's going to be the same, but it might have changed slightly. Best way to communicate with me. How do you help me? And what do people misunderstand about me? So my suggestion on operator's manual, if you really want to get to know your teammates better, what a great way to do this as kind of a staff development. And when I worked with the human capital group prior to coming to Gallagher, we were part of a group that bought out by Gallagher. We did this as a staff development. And I did it as a multiple choice exam. So I had people's names on the left, and what they said was my style. And you had to kind of pick and choose who said that this is my style. It was eye-opening. And we tended to give this kind of the answer sheet to all new hires after we did it. And the new hire said, this is so important. I want to know what someone doesn't have patience for, what gets under their skin. This is like great. This is gravy to do the best work I can with that person. And so we've done it and used it very, very effectively, but it makes sense to use it with your peer teams as well. If they have no patience for someone being tardy, you need to know that. If the best way to communicate with your manager is always with an agenda, you don't do a drive-by knock on the door saying, do you have 5? No, you set that up and say, this is what I'd like to talk about. How do you help me? Help people know how to help you. It's okay to say, give me a minute after you tell me what the issue is for me to think about what I need to do so I can come back with a plan of how to help. Don't expect me to immediately have it. Again, help people know how to help you do your work. This has been lots of fun in my experiences. I wrote about it. You're certainly welcome to look at that. I love green flags. We hear about them all the time right now. And I love, the things that people that make us say people are doing it right. I love when someone celebrates your win because they're over on the sidelines. They're those champions saying, good job. Really, really saw you and really like what I saw. Remember the small things. Any manager, any peer, any one of your team that says something like, on a day like today, how was your Mother's Day celebration? I know you just lost your mom. It probably was a hard one. Again, those little things, knowing a little bit more. They respect your boundaries when you say, sorry, can't do it. I've got something that's non-negotiable. You feel real energized when you see them. You feel like you're listened to and you don't have to get defensive. No one's saying, but wait, you really feel like you're being heard. You can be fully yourself. It's a safe place. Again, safe, we see it in lots of places. You don't have to watch what you say. You don't have to filter what you're saying to someone, and they're supporting your goals. Things like that. Green flags, we want more of them in our lives, not the red ones. And the secret to all of this, I love this, don't adapt to the energy in the room, influence the energy in the room. And you have the power to do that when you properly manage up, manage across, and manage below. So with that, there's just some ideas of things, a little bit more content than usual. Questions. What kinds of questions do you have? And if they're very long and kind of many people go, oh, this is not a question for this group, I'm going to encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn and ask the question. And if it's too long to try to do back and forth through LinkedIn, maybe we pop on a phone call. But I think it's so important when you have someone who's not a part of your organization to help you work through some of this. Because sometimes it's tricky to work through it with people in your own organization. But the biggest thing with all of these things, try new things, connect, ask what's appropriate, and never forget to say thank you. So with that, go ahead, Alexia, get people to ask some questions.
Yes. So for those here today that have any questions about this topic for Diane, please go ahead, put them in the Q&A box, and I'll be able to read them out loud and she can answer them. We do have about, I would say 8 minutes for Q&A, which is great. And so we'll try to get through as many questions as we can. So first one I want to bring up from one of our participants here today is what's the best way to build relationships with more junior folks in your organization if you don't manage anyone directly?
Ah, beautiful question. You don't have any direct reports. What you do is you kind of look around as the people who are a little bit more junior than you. How do you reach out to them and maybe say, I'd like to have coffee. I want to hear what you're doing. I want to hear what your projects are. How are you supporting this, kind of this line of the business? Or you see them somewhere or you see them in a meeting and you're like, we have been crossing paths now the last 3 meetings this week. Help me know. I want to sit down and get to know you a little bit more because you look like you have so much going on in your head in our meetings, but you don't speak up. I want to hear from you. What's going on? Maybe as you're meeting them and they're in different sessions, is that somebody you mentor? Is that someone you say, let me give you some feedback based on what I saw? You're being very quiet, but it looks like your mind is going 98 miles an hour. Why don't we hear what's going on in that beautiful mind of yours? So I think when you don't have teams, and when someone says you can't take this next role because you'll have to supervise people, you can say, officially, I haven't supervised anyone, but I've been mentoring these three. And I think there's a couple other folks that would stand up and say, she's approachable. She's been very approachable. And here's how I've gotten to know this person. So all of those things, again, reaching out to people who they're not your peers, but they're people that you see as potential within your organization to get to know. You get work done through people. Anyone who thinks you do your work by yourself, you never do. Yeah, you always have other people are kind of the keys to success.
Yeah, and that person just said thank you as well. So just throwing it out there. So thank you so much for answering that, Diane. More questions coming in. So we actually have a lot more, which is awesome. So this one is about building relationships with peers. So do you have any advice on that, particularly for those who work remotely in a virtual environment?
Okay, no, and everyone goes, oh, wait, you all the things you said were kind of in person. Remotely, let's have a sidebar, let's have a coffee together. And let's not talk about work. Let's go through those operator questions. Let's talk about what your projects are. Let's talk about what you love and what you wish you were doing more of or less of. Or I might just say, oh my gosh, Alexia, I'd like to have coffee with you. No, and I commend you for what you just did in a meeting. I'm like, I'd love to have a follow up because I'd like to know more about this meeting and how you prepped for this and how you've established this, this, and this. But do it one-on-one and use the video component if you are working remote. For all of the people who say, oh, we can't make relationships work, we have to be in person, we've got to be shaking hands, forget that. That's not where we are. You still can establish incredible relationships using this technology. So use it and do it. But if somebody as a peer, maybe you're even having a conflict with a peer, I'd rather do it face to face than doing it by phone. We lose so much because we get lost in the words. And the words are not enough. I need the body language. I need the tone. I can get tone by phone, but I really don't get the body language by phone. So use all of this. And if you're having a conflict, and just say to someone, might we have 20 minutes by phone? Because I want to get to the bottom of why we're going like this, why we are not talking on the same page.
Yeah, that's great advice. So as someone who works remote, I actually have been using some of those strategies that you've mentioned, and I can say it's worked for me as well, both in the, oh, navigating a problem, but also like the positive of building that relationship with others. So yeah, so don't be intimidated by a virtual environment, because yes, it's different, but you can also make some of those same strategies work for sure. So we do have two questions that are kind of similar, but on different ends. But it's basically talking about working with someone that might be a little bit of a challenge, if you will. So the first one is from the perspective of, okay, someone is working on a team and a senior member is really reluctant to change. So do you have any advice on how to approach this person for gaining influence with them?
So we're always going to have troubled peoples. I mean, our worlds are never going to be without. So if you're struggling with getting someone to see another perspective, you don't do it in public, you do it in private. So again, sidebar conversation. Might we get on a 20-minute call? Let's have a cup of coffee together tomorrow morning. So maybe you can figure out where's their resistance to moving something forward, because you're not quite understanding their perspective. So if you're finding someone's obstinate about something, that to me would be a great strategy. Let's do a sidebar conversation, just the two of us. Or if you could meet in person, that would be lovely. But if you can't, again, let's use the technology and use a video chat to get that done. Trying to understand why they're saying no helps you understand their perspective. And helping for them hearing you ask those really good, solid questions will also up she's curious. She really wants to know why I'm saying no. Maybe we can get through this impasse together if you ask the right questions. But if you're in there finger pointing going, why are you being so obstinate? That's not going to get anybody anywhere. But instead say, you're coming at this answer and this solution from this vein, and I'm coming at it from this vein. I'm trying to understand the differences because I think of them as very similar. And again, having that conversation, tough conversation, but a great conversation to really build trust between the two of you.
Yeah, and I feel like for the second question, the other question that came in from a different person is how do you deal with a peer that is negatively affecting the work culture, and your manager doesn't seem to know. So I feel like part of what you said there of like meeting with them maybe one-on-one to have a conversation would be appropriate. But do you have any other like additional for that specific situation of a peer, again, that is negatively affecting the work culture, and that second part of your manager doesn't seem to have taken notice about it?
So what you might do in your manager one-on-one, saying, if this has been going on and you've been trying and you've been reaching out and it's not working, and your manager is just like putting their head down saying it's not worth it. Again, it's a tough conversation maybe they don't want to have. I would bring it up to your manager saying, here's 3 things I've done to try to solve this and kind of overcome this obstacle with this person. And I'm getting nowhere. And in fact, I'm getting more resistance now that I'm trying to open up this conversation. I'm getting more and more pushback that they don't want to play. And helping the manager understand they're not playing, how it affects everybody else's work. Sometimes that's what you have to kind of say, this, I'm only playing over here affects all of us. Not, I know where they want to play, but it really, they're kind of set in stone over on this side is not helping us do these things on this side, which we need. We need them over here as well. We can't have the luxury of having them just over here. So helping your manager know, and again, it's a tough conversation for you to have it with them as well, saying, here's some things I've tried, they have not worked, but I want you to be in the loop because I want this relationship to work for all of us. And I didn't want to come to you and say, solve it for me. Here's what I've been trying to do to solve it. Here's where I'm at. And sometimes that illuminates to them, okay, I've got to have a conversation. Because unless they think, this is just going to solve itself. It's not. What do they say? Trash stinks even more as it sits out for a couple of days. Well, if as weeks have gone by with this, everything gets really stinky. Let's just solve it. And let's do it sooner rather than later. Because sometimes we wait on too many things that needed to be said way a long time ago. And people are often embarrassed thinking, how did I miss this?
Yeah, I love that time component too of like, don't let so much time go by. Like this is stuff that does need to be addressed, especially if it's negative impacting like not only like the general feel of the office, but also like the results that you're trying to get with the work you're doing. So thank you so much for that advice for this specific person. We are pretty much at time, so I'm actually going to stop with the questions. But if you do have more questions for Diane, she mentioned, feel free to reach out to her on LinkedIn. Definitely say who you are and that you attended this webinar and have a question, so she can place you. But Diane, again, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your knowledge, your experience with this group. I can say like this stuff is really helpful. This topic particularly, we've heard from our audience in the over the last couple months that this is something that's really resonating with them. So again, thank you for taking the time to really talk to us about this specifically.
You're very welcome. Everyone, have a great start to a week, and find me if you need specific questions, because I'll take them.
Yep, perfect. And then I just want to quickly share. Oh, do you mind screen sharing, Diane, real quick?
Absolutely.
All right, so I do want to quickly share just a couple of housekeeping issues. So this is a part of our Watch on Demand series. So if you missed the beginning of it, or if you just want to watch the content again, you can find this information on the website. The video will be posted there within the next couple of days. So you just go to our fortefoundation.org, programs, events, and then professional development is where we post all of our speaking series videos post events. We do want to talk about two different upcoming programs. So Women on Boards is the next one that's on May 15th. It's actually typically Women on Boards is for our premium members, but we are opening it up for everybody. So affiliate members, professional members, please feel free to register for it. And the topic is accelerating inspiring women leaders into the boardroom. What's great about this one is that we're kind of doing cross-cultural stuff here. So our guest speaker is actually from Europe, and so she's talking about some European boards, but how it can be applicable for Americans as well. So again, definitely a really cool Women on Board series coming up. And then the last one, we have a conference on May 21st, which is Career Takeoff. So if you are a early career professional, so thinking 0 to 3 years out of college, or you work with a junior employee who is that age, this would be a really great opportunity for them. We have a ton of information on our website. But again, this Career Takeoff Conference is happening May 21st, and it's really helping young professionals with that transition to starting their career strong. So with that, again, thank you so much, Diane. Thank you everyone for attending, and we hope you have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the week as well.
Right. Thank you all.